The elevator was not meant to feel small, but when the doors closed, it did. The hum of the cables replaced the noise of the hallway outside. A soft, mechanical sound, steady, uninterested in who stood inside. Muhammad Ali leaned lightly against the wall, his coat open, his hands relaxed at his sides. He had stepped in without thinking much of it. Just another transition between places. The doors slid shut. Two men stood opposite him. They were close enough to remove distance, but not close enough to touch. Both wore dark jackets. Both stood with the same posture. Shoulders slightly forward, feet planted wider than necessary. They didn't look at each other. They didn't need to. The elevator began to move. One of the men smiled. Not warmly, not nervously, measured. "You know," he said, "there's nowhere to go in here." His voice wasn't raised. It didn't need to be. The second man shifted slightly, blocking the panel with the buttons. Not aggressively, deliberately. Ali looked at them both. His expression didn't change. He didn't step back. He didn't straighten up. He stayed exactly where he was. The first man tilted his head, studying Ali as if expecting fear to arrive late. "Doors closed," he continued. "Just us." The elevator passed another floor. The number changed quietly above the door. Ali glanced at it briefly, then back at the men. "You talk like space decides things," Ali said calmly. The second man chuckled under his breath. "Space helps," he replied. Ali nodded once. "So does balance." Neither man answered right away. The elevator kept rising, indifferent. The walls felt closer now, not because they had moved, but because attention had. Ali shifted his weight slightly, not away from them, into himself. The men noticed, not consciously, instinctively. Ali's voice remained even. "You think this box gives you control," he said, "but control doesn't come from walls." The first man's smile thinned. "You always talk this much?" he asked. Ali met his eyes. "Only when people misunderstand where they're standing." The elevator slowed slightly as it approached the next floor. The tension did not. The doors remained closed, and in that confined space, it became clear. This wasn't going to end the way the two men had imagined. This was only the beginning. The elevator continued its climb, steady and indifferent. No music, no announcement, just the low mechanical hum filling the space between breaths. The two men shifted slightly, not moving closer, but tightening the shape of the room with their posture. They had done this before. Not necessarily in elevators, but in moments meant to feel unavoidable. Ali noticed everything without reacting to it. The angle of their shoulders, the way one man kept his weight forward, ready to step, the way the other watched hands instead of faces. "You're calm," the first man said, almost curious. Ali didn't answer right away. He adjusted his stance, placing his feet a little differently, not wider, more balanced. "Calm comes from knowing what matters," he said. The second man smirked and tapped the elevator wall lightly with his knuckles. Solid, unmoving. "Right now," he said, "this matters." Ali glanced at the wall, then back at him. "This?" he asked. "This just tells you where you are." The first man laughed quietly. "You always speak in lines like that?" Ali shook his head slightly. "Only when people mistake pressure for power." The elevator passed another floor. The number above the door changed, still no stop. The men grew more confident with each second the doors stayed shut. Time, to them, was leverage. "You're boxed in," the first man said. "No room to dance, no crowd." Ali exhaled slowly, deliberately. A breath taken by choice, not need. "You ever notice," he said, "how people panic when there's nowhere to move?" Neither man replied. "They rush," Ali continued. "They tense. They show you everything." He took one small step, not forward, not back. Just enough to change alignment. "I don't need room," he said. "I need timing." The second man frowned, suddenly aware that Ali's shoulders were no longer squared to them both. They were angled, purposefully. The elevator gave a slight vibration as it continued upward. The space felt tighter now, not physically but mentally. "You think talking saves you?" the first man asked. Ali met his gaze. "No," he said. "I think listening does." For the first time, both men hesitated. Not because they were afraid, but because something about the moment no longer followed their script. Ali's voice stayed level. "You chose this space because you thought it took options away," he said. "But small spaces don't remove options." He paused. "They remove mistakes." The elevator slowed slightly. The men exchanged a brief glance. Not coordinated, instinctive. And in that instant, Ali understood exactly how this was going to unfold. Not with force, but with precision. The elevator slowed just enough for everyone inside to feel it. Not stopping, just adjusting. The kind of pause that makes people think something is about to happen. The first man shifted his weight forward, not aggressively, automatically. The second man noticed, and adjusted too late. Ali noticed both. He didn't move quickly. He didn't raise his hands. He simply turned his body slightly, changing the angle of the space without changing the space itself. "Watch your feet," Ali said calmly. The words weren't a warning, they were instruction. The first man scoffed, but his eyes dropped anyway, just for a fraction of a second. Long enough. Ali took one step, not toward either man, between them. The movement was small, almost polite, but it rearranged everything. The second man felt it first. The sense that his position no longer made sense, that his shoulder was open, that his balance wasn't where he thought it was. Ali didn't touch him. He didn't need to. "You both think being close gives you control," Ali continued. "But closeness only works when you understand distance." The elevator hummed. The walls stayed where they were. The men weren't sure what to do now. They had planned for fear, for resistance, not for calm. Ali shifted his weight again, subtly, his feet planted, his center settled. "Small spaces don't make people weak," he said. "They make habits obvious." The first man's jaw tightened. He took a step forward, then stopped himself. Too late. Ali had already seen the decision before it finished forming. "You lead with your shoulders," Ali said, looking directly at him. "That's why you're slow." The man bristled, but didn't deny it. Ali turned his gaze to the second man. "And you," he added, "you wait too long." Neither man spoke. The elevator passed another floor. The number changed quietly. Ali stayed exactly where he was. Between them, not threatened, not threatening. "You wanted me trapped," he said evenly. "But you didn't check who was trapped with who." For the first time since the doors closed, the men understood something had gone wrong. Not dramatically, not violently, precisely. And the lesson was no longer theoretical. The elevator felt smaller now, not because the walls had moved, but because certainty had. The men no longer stood the way they had when the doors first closed. Their shoulders weren't aligned, their feet weren't confident. Ali remained centered, not dominating the space, understanding it. The first man cleared his throat, trying to reclaim momentum with sound. "You think talking changes anything?" he asked. Ali didn't answer immediately. He let the question hang long enough to show how little it mattered. He shifted his weight again, barely noticeable, but enough to reset the balance of the room. The elevator responded the way it always did, by staying indifferent. "You both came in here believing pressure would do the work for you," Ali said calmly. "But pressure only works when the other person reacts." The second man flexed his hands, opening and closing his fingers. A habit, a tell. Ali noticed. "You feel that?" Ali asked him. "The need to move?" The man frowned, unsure why the question unsettled him. "That's your body trying to solve a problem your mind created," Ali continued. "And in small spaces, that gets you in trouble." The first man took a half-step sideways, attempting to regain alignment with his partner. Ali adjusted at the same time, not to block, but to remain ahead of the decision. No collision, no contact, just inevitability. "You don't need fists to lose balance," Ali said. "You just need timing to leave you." The elevator jolted slightly as it slowed again. A soft, mechanical hesitation. Both men stiffened instinctively. Ali did not. He placed one hand lightly against the wall beside him, not for support, but to demonstrate awareness. The wall was there. He knew it. They did not. "You chose this place because you thought it limited me," he said. "But it limits you more." The first man swallowed. The confidence in his eyes had drained, not replaced by fear, but by calculation that no longer worked. The second man exhaled sharply, then steadied himself, trying to appear composed. But the delay remained. Every reaction came a fraction too late. Ali looked at both of them evenly. "I don't need to hurt you," he said. "I just need you to understand." The elevator continued its ascent. Floor numbers changed. Time moved forward. And somewhere between one floor and the next, the men realized the truth they hadn't planned for. They were not in danger. They were in a lesson. And there was no rushing its end. The elevator slowed again, almost imperceptibly. Not enough to stop, enough to be noticed. The men felt it in their knees before they understood it with their minds. Small adjustments. Unnecessary ones. Ali stayed still. Stillness, in a space like this, carried weight. "You feel it now," Ali said quietly. "Not fear, uncertainty." Neither man answered. They didn't trust their voices anymore. The first man tried to straighten his posture, to reclaim the shape he had entered with. It didn't return. The space no longer supported it. "You came in thinking confidence fills rooms," Ali continued, "but confidence that needs space is fragile." The second man glanced briefly at the control panel, then away, not looking for escape, looking for reassurance. Ali noticed. Reminding someone they have nowhere to go only works when you haven't already taken their balance. "You blocked the buttons," Ali said calmly, "but you forgot to block yourselves." The first man let out a short breath. Controlled, deliberate. "You talk like you've already won," he said. Ali shook his head slightly. "No," he replied. "I talk like this was never a fight." He shifted his stance one final time, subtle but decisive. The kind of movement that doesn't invite reaction. It removes options. The men felt it immediately, not physically, instinctively. Their bodies knew they were out of position. "You don't need room to move," Ali said. "You need clarity." The elevator hummed on, uninterested. The walls remained close, the ceiling unchanged, but the room had flipped. The men were no longer controlling the moment. They were enduring it. Ali's voice remained even. "You wanted me trapped," he said, "but being trapped only matters when you don't know where you stand." The first man lowered his eyes briefly. Not in surrender, in acknowledgement. The second man exhaled again, slower this time, trying to mirror Ali's calm. It didn't quite work. The lesson had reached its point of no return. Nothing had been thrown, nothing had been touched. Yet both men understood the same thing at the same time. They were done. The elevator continued upward, and the end was approaching quietly. The elevator slowed for the last time, more noticeably now. The familiar mechanical deceleration filled the space, steady and unavoidable. The men felt it immediately, not relief, finality. Ali remained where he was, balanced, calm, unchanged from the moment the doors had closed. He hadn't raised his voice. He hadn't lifted a hand. Yet the room belonged to him. The first man cleared his throat, then stopped himself. There was nothing left to say that would regain control. The second man shifted his feet, then froze, realizing movement no longer helped. Every adjustment only confirmed what had already been decided. "You understand now," Ali said quietly, not as a question. They did. The elevator came to a complete stop. The soft chime sounded. The doors began to slide open. Light spilled in from the hallway outside, wide and ordinary. People waited beyond the doors, unaware of what had just happened inside. Before stepping out, Ali spoke one last time. "You told me there was nowhere to go," he said calmly, "but you confused walls with limits." He stepped forward as the doors fully opened. The men did not follow immediately. They stood there for a brief moment, watching him leave without hurry, without tension, without looking back. When they finally stepped out, their posture had changed. Not broken, adjusted. They didn't look at Ali again. They didn't need to. The lesson had already traveled with them. The elevator doors closed behind them. And just like that, the space returned to being what it always was. A box of metal and cables, incapable of trapping anyone who knew where they stood.